There are two kingdoms at war, is the idea from this. One is built upon the deception of the enemy, and the other is built upon the truth of God's word. Failure to practice discernment will give the enemy a foothold of deception in our lives and even in our churches quite a bit. And so this is from Answers in Genesis, and I have permission to use this, so it's perfectly okay. But they have this whole idea here that they show two kingdoms. There's a secular worldview and a Christian worldview. They use worldview instead of kingdom. The secular worldview, or the humanity's kingdom, is built upon man's word or the philosophy of this world and influenced even by spiritual beings, right? This is where we get things like gay marriage or abortion or racism or you name it. I mean, you could put hundreds, thousands of different flags on this, right? You got to stop somewhere. And over here in God's word, we have a Christian worldview that's based on the Bible. Humanity is one race. There's not a black race, a Mexican race, a white race. It's just, we're humanity. We're humans, right? Just different skin colors. Sanctity of life. We value life, whether it be the unborn life or those who are aging. And then Christian marriage between one man and one woman forever, no divorce type stuff. And so those are the two different worldviews and the opposition there. Well, ultimately, and one of the things that we've really been hammering into this class, whether you realize it or not, is that the entire Bible is based upon the foundation of Genesis 1 through 11. And if you think about what is in Genesis 1 through 11, sure, we have the creation of humanity, the creation of angels. We have the fall in the garden, death enters the world. But what other things have we looked at that are totally foundational to how we understand the world? There's the pre-flood world where the sons of God take human women and the demons eventually come from there. God wipes out the world. The Tower of Babel event, where God says, I'm done. I'm disinheriting the nations, all the people. I'll make my own people from Abraham, and I'm going to turn the rest of you over to the sons of God, his angels. All foundational stuff that we build upon. Okay? If we divorce Genesis 1 through 11 through the rest of the Bible, we can make the rest of the Bible say whatever we want it to say. And ultimately, we'll be guilty of having man's word over God's word. I don't know where it went, but... And so, as the world goes, because this nation is opposed to us, it is firing shots at us, trying to destroy our worldview and our understanding of Christ's kingdom. And
Which is our foundation.
Which is our foundation. It just bombards it and destroys it. And that's why I said here, notice what disappeared there, Genesis 1 through 11. Without a foundation there, the rest of our understanding will fall apart. Think about how many of you have said, wow, I'm reading my Bible in a whole new way, understanding Old Testament passages, New Testament passages, based on what Ray and I have been teaching for the last X amount of weeks.
10. No.
It's been more than 10
It has been more than 10.
Right? Because we're showing you things in the context of Genesis 1 through 11, which is why God had Moses write that. So there'd be an understanding the Israelites would know the world they now live in as being called out of the nations. And you too, we're in the same boat. We're called out of the nations as Christians, and we need to base our world foundation on Genesis 1 through 11. And so ultimately what will happen, though, is if we don't have that, it'll just be all erased. And that's why so many churches are embracing all these different worldviews, critical race theory, abortion, gay marriage, all the stuff that comes along with it. Christian nationalism would be another flag I'd put over here on this side. And so God's word is a solid foundation. And when we build our worldview on that solid foundation, we will have answers and not be deceived against the world's philosophy. And what we will actually be able to do, instead of being on the defense and just having our total world destroyed as people destroy it through vain philosophy, we will actually have an answer and then be able to fire back. And as Paul said in Corinthians, we will be able to tear down strongholds, right? And we will be able to have an inroads with individuals to preach the gospel. So,
and the important thing, if you can just dial it back.
Absolutely.
So, a lot of times as Christians, we get so involved in attacking these flags, right? We spend all our time fighting about abortion and gay marriage and racism. And those are good things to point out. But if that's where all our efforts are going, then the enemy is attacking the foundation of our truth. And we're just attacking a symptom of their truth. We have to understand a secular worldview so that we can attack the issues of that worldview with the gospel, with the truth of God, so that all the stuff built on top of it, racism, abortion, all that stuff, so that stuff can then crumble because the foundation that's built on is now worthless.
Yep. And so we have to ask ourselves, as we are living our day-to-day lives, Which kingdom are we actually participating in and living in on a regular basis? Which kingdom are we walking in? We're either walking in Satan's kingdom of deception or God's kingdom of truth. And so we're either a citizen. So Satan's kingdom is you're a citizen of your nation. I'm an American. And then that's your primary worldview is I'm an American. And you sift everything through that. And when it doesn't fill up to your idealism of what America is, then you'll be upset. And you'll think, well, that's not godly. Okay, maybe your ideal wasn't godly to begin with. Because we don't know if it's built on God's word or not. In God's kingdom of truth, you're a citizen of heaven first and primary. And even if our nation that we live in falls away, we'll still be joyful and content and hopeful because we're a citizen of heaven. Satan's kingdom of deception, you do what makes you happy and follow your heart. Disney theology, right?
Very much so.
In God's kingdom of truth, you're a slave of Jesus Christ. And that's the actual language that the New Testament uses. You're a slave to Christ. In fact, actually, Paul says you're either a slave to Christ or you're a slave to sin because you've been deceived. Ray, take a few of those.
Sure. According to Satan's worldview, you get to define what marriage, gender, and sex is. We are all aware of what that looks like today. But in God's kingdom of truth, because we are slaves of Christ, God is the one who defines what marriage is, what gender is, and what sex is. In Satan's kingdom, you have to find your own purpose in life. You have to figure out your meaning and just follow your bliss. But it is God who defines the purpose for Christians. God tells us who we are and why we are here, what we are to do with our lives. In the world, everything exists by chance, a very atheistic worldview. But within Christianity, we know that God is the one who created everything. In Satan's kingdom, trusting God is foolish. Why would you believe that old fairy tale? But we know that trusting God is the beginning of wisdom, right, as the proverb says. And then finally, in Satan's kingdom, they call evil things good, and they call good things evil. Is that not what we've been talking about this whole night? There is worldliness, which is evil, that the world just craves. And then there is godliness that we know is defined by God, that the world rejects, they hate, they mock us for. Because we know that it is God himself who defines good and evil, not our experiences, not our emotions, not our preferences, not our culture, nothing else but God.
Yep.